What if I told you? Just kidding. I aim to demystify religion, spirituality, magic, the mystical world. But don't get me wrong, by demystify, I do not mean discredit. I do think there is validity to religion and spirituality. The problem is that a lot of religious people base their spirituality on superstition. So I aim to give a rational, realistic basis to religious beliefs and spiritual phenomena, so that if you want to become a wizard, you can become a wizard. Put away the act, put away your toys. This is how you do it, so that you can have a substantial basis for your faith. It's kind of like apologetics, except deeper. So to expand a little bit on this problem, people use shortcuts instead of using their faith. People have crutches, and these crutches, these shortcuts, they don't do justice to actual spirituality. They devalue, they cheapen the religious experience. And things like blind faith or a God of the gaps, which I'll explain in other videos, or when even non-religious spiritual people use new age terms like energy, you know, when they say, oh, the energy transfers from here to there, or when they talk about the universe and what the universe wants and what the universe does, or karma. These grandiose words, they supposedly mean a lot, but in the end they don't really say anything, they don't really describe anything so that you actually know what exactly is going on and how it works. Now, of course, I've heard it said plenty of times that God is beyond reason. Or if you're a Christian, you might say, do not lean on your own understanding. And yes, I do agree, God is beyond reason. But some of this stuff is just outright irrational. There's the difference between super rational and irrational. God is beyond reason, that's super rational. But irrational is just when you throw out reason altogether. And it is stuff like this that starts debates between believers and non-believers, between religion and science, between spirituality and reason. Things that are not necessarily mutually exclusive. They can actually be compatible. Some advice that might be a little bit too hard to swallow. Your critics are your best friends. There's nobody that's going to be more straightforward and more honest about your flaws than your haters. So listen to them. You don't have to do what they say, but do listen, because they show you your flaws. They might not always be right about who you are, but they will show you your flaws. And do see your flaws, because that's the only way. Only by acknowledging your flaws will you be able to overcome them. And seeing spirituality in this critical manner will allow you to better understand spiritual things. It will allow you to better understand what spiritual understanding is and how to obtain it. And when you get spiritual understanding, you'll be able to not only recognize, but also predict and even utilize spiritual phenomena to your own advantage. And now that I've addressed that, I'd like to talk about boundaries. Because there's some aspects of spirituality that I'm not willing to explore. And to introduce these limits, I like to bring up the topic of the third eye. What is the third eye? The third eye is a concept that resembles spiritual vision. But if you say the word third eye, you'll notice that a lot of people will freak out. So don't say that word, that's a bad word. But if you're Christian and you read the Bible, you'll see a lot of examples of people with spiritual vision, people of God, people like Daniel, Ezekiel, and Elisha when he saw the armies of God in heaven. So the question is, should you try to develop your spiritual vision, or should you try to open up your third eye, as the heathens will call it? And the answer is this. If God gave you that ability, if that ability is a natural part of you, then of course you should try and develop it. God gave it to you for a reason. You should try and develop it and use it. But if to open up your third eye, you have to give up some part of your soul or alter some part of your being, then that I would be a little bit more careful about. And it is things like these, things of this nature that I will not be getting into. Things like the Ouija board, or demonic possessions, or hauntings, and other artificial ways of accessing the spiritual world. These I will not be getting into. What I will be getting into is just natural spirituality, things that you can derive through natural observation and assumptions. And you'll see that I have the same principle in my practicality system. I prioritize natural observation over artificial investigation. I'll stand by this maxim. I'm a philosopher, not a ghost hunter. My priority is wisdom, not magic. So if I can't come across it naturally, if I can't find a natural path to it, I'm not delving into it. So I will not be getting into esoteric revelations or forbidden spells or secret sigils, none of that. Now you might ask, why wouldn't I be getting into that? That's because if I cannot find the natural path to it, then that means I don't fully understand where it comes from, how it works, and what it is. And if I cannot find, if I don't understand anything about its origin or its structure, then that means that I don't really understand the dangers or the risk that it might imply. Also, I haven't built the rashness. I don't have the rashness, and I haven't built the spiritual constitution to withstand the dangers if anything were to go wrong. We live in a big world, and just as there are worms living inside the ground, or mold growing inside the surface of garbage, or bacteria living inside a carcass, these may never fathom the greatness and the complexity of the human life, even less the universe. Just like that, that's how we are in this world. We may never fathom the greatness and complexity of what's outside this universe. We may not even have the mental capacity to consider what's out there. Or what? Did you really think that humanity was the pinnacle of sentience? Now, why would you think that? Well, I'm sure this mentality is essential for our survival. I'm sure that when the exterminator comes to your house, all the roaches that are trying to save their lives, they think that they are the most important thing in the universe, and that urges them to keep themselves alive. We live in a big world, a big universe, and I believe that there are dangers so great, so unfathomable, that we wouldn't even be able to comprehend why they are a danger, or even how they are a danger. We live in a big universe, and I believe that there are dangers so great, so unfathomable, that we wouldn't even be able to comprehend how or why they are a danger. Take the parasite, for example, a parasite living inside a prisoner. The prisoner understands the inconvenience and the negative effects of being inside a prison. The parasite doesn't. The parasite thinks it's fine as long as it has a warm environment. But eventually the prisoner dies, and the parasite will die with it. It may be even generations for the parasite before death comes to it. But the effect is ultimately a negative one, and a great one. Imagine a bacteria that kills its own host, a parasite that kills its own host. The parasite doesn't understand why what it's doing is negative, is counterproductive to its own survival. But if it kills its own host, it will die with it. The parasite just does what it does, not knowing what it's doing. It might do things that will eventually lead to its own demise. It is stuff like this that I think about when we think about us being human beings. What is the danger of selling your soul when you don't even know what your soul is, or you've never seen it before, or you don't know what it is or how it works? What is the danger of desecrating sacraments when sacraments is just like a simple physical item? What would be the danger behind desecrating it? What does it mean to desecrate it? Just messing up its physical form. What is the danger of telling white lies or giving up your birthright? The dangers of these things may only be relevant in some distant plane of existence that you don't even connect to, that you don't even have any idea about. Or they may even become relevant in some distant afterlife that you have no idea about. It is things like these that I don't want to tamper with. Now, if you do tamper with these things, or if you have, I respect that. That is your choice. You do you. You may have a different philosophy or a different approach to life. But as a philosopher, I can only say, just be ready to accept whatever consequences may result from your decisions. Besides that, I wish you well in your spiritual investigation. If any of what I said resonated with you, I'll be here to give you hints and help you along the path with what I myself have discovered. May you benefit from what I am to show you.